Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome to Perspective. I'm your host, Umar Khalid Butt. And today, the topic that we're going to discuss more or less in detail is the China-Pakistan relationship. It's CPEC, that is one of the hallmarks of the strong cooperation between Pakistan and China. But of late, since 2021, we've seen three major attacks on the Chinese. The first being in 2021 in Quetta, in the hotel, and the last one on the Confucius Institute bus of the Karachi University, in which, of course, Chinese were murdered in this heinous attack that was claimed by the BLA. Nevertheless, this gives rise to a lot of questions from different elements of the society, whether it be in Pakistan or in China. A, concerning the security. B, concerning Pakistan-China relations. Are they the same? Are they not? There have been different statements that have emanated from the Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson. There are three statements, in fact, that we'll be discussing during the course of the show on the 28th, on the 29th, and then on the 5th of May, talking about Pakistan-China relations in the backdrop of the incident at the Confucius Institute. That and more. CPEC, how important is it for Pakistan and China, for economic prosperity of Pakistan, and for the continuity of the relationship between Pakistan and China? This is going to be under discussion during this show. We have guests with us to talk about different aspects, whether it be the diplomatic side, whether it be the defense side, security side of these incidents that have been happening, that have been hampering the security relationship between Pakistan and China. These conspiracies that have been continuing between to thwart all this strong relationship between Pakistan and China is nothing new, but it has gained momentum in the last year. To talk about that and more, we've been joined by two guests. Let me introduce them to you one by one. My first guest online is Masood Khalid Saab. He's a former Pakistani ambassador to China. Masood Saab, pleasure to have you on board for this show. Our second guest is also a regular guest on our shows, Lieutenant General retired Naeem Khalid Lodi Saab. He's a former defense minister. He also joins us for this show. Thank you very much, Naeem Saab, to have joined us. It's a pleasure to have you on board. Let's begin with Masood Khalid Saab. Masood Khalid Saab, you understand Chinese politics, Chinese diplomacy much better than people like myself know. We know that the CPEC is one of the hallmarks of the economic relationship or the bond between Pakistan and China. We know that China has always been there for Pakistan. We also know that there are elements that do not want this relationship to prosper or to continue or to strengthen. The three attacks that we've seen since 2021, starting with Quetta and now at the Confucius Institute, what do you foresee? Are they going to put a dent in the relationship between Pakistan and China, A? And B, how should both countries now move forward as far as their security apparatus is concerned?
Well, thank you very much for giving me this opportunity. Your question is very specific. Are these incidents going to make a dent in our relationship? Well, I think our relationship is quite sure-footed. It has endured, many ups and downs and changes in the domestic and international situation. But of course, CPEC is a new project, relatively speaking. It was, as we all know, launched in 2013 and actually started in 2015. So obviously those forces and those elements, domestic as well as external, which are not happy with CPEC, with Pakistan-China relations, and they have their own strategic designs in our region. Obviously, they are at work to sabotage this project, and this successive, successive incidents which took place, which you just listed, shows that they have become more active. And they are, egging on these mercenaries and the elements of some dissident groups to launch attacks on Chinese, trying to create a scare in our society, trying to scare them and to make them, sort of abandon the project. But I'm sure that you have seen the statements of the Chinese Foreign Ministry after the incident in Karachi. And it was quite constructive in the sense, of course, there is a serious concern over the security situation which is faced by the Chinese personnel in Pakistan. And that concern was aired by the spokesman. But at the same time, he made it clear that Pakistan and China will work together jointly to sort of deal with this threat, to deal with this challenge, and bring the perpetrators to justice. Now, I think incident has taken place in Pakistan. It is our responsibility to really do everything possible to unearth who is actually behind uh, which group. Of course, we know that the BLA claimed responsibility, and I'm sure, but we have to reach them. We have to get hold of them and made them accountable for this kind of violence and terror. So I think as far as the relationship is concerned, I can confidently say that Pakistan-China relationship is sort of, it's not you can say amenable because both countries know that this is by design a deliberate attempt to sabotage the relationship, and we are confident that if we coordinate closely, we have a strategic communication between the intelligence and security agencies, two sides, we can these criminals who are out to sabotage a project which is, for the benefit of Pakistan and for the welfare of Pakistan. So I think we need to be vigilant. We need to enhance our security. We need to actually revisit the security protocols which are currently in force. And at the same time, I see that there is some confusion in our minds. In some time, I see it figures that why should we be getting? Why should we maintain, or why should we have this relationship with China? This is a question that really bothers me a lot, because if we look back at the history of our relationship, we'll find that two countries, both our countries, have really helped each other, stood by each other, and I can give you countless examples right from the very beginning when this relationship started. So I think that we should, clear this fog in our minds, and we should be certain and we should be confident
And that is,
that
I,
this
I totally
relationship.
agree with you, Ambassador Saab, and I think that all the apprehensions, all these question marks that people have, including the questions that people are asking you as well, because you've been a former ambassador to China, need to be cleared out and cleared out at the earliest from the two quarters. I think both quarters are working very diligently to clear or thwart any such attempts that point towards some kind of relationship dent between Pakistan and China. Coming to you, Naeem Khalid Lodhi Saab, April 2021, a hotel in which the Chinese ambassador was staying is targeted. 4 people died, dozens are injured. That is also a suicide attack. Now, this suicide attack also that targets Chinese of the Confucius Institute, 3 Chinese are killed, 1 is injured. And this is also a suicide blast. There is a pattern that I see here in the last 1 year, and I'm citing the first and the last attack in this 1 year. What do you feel needs to be done by the security authorities of both China and Pakistan? Do you feel there needs to be some joint effort to single out elements that are trying to destabilize our relationship and also these suicide attacks? And B, there are certain quarters that are deliberately trying to highlight the fact that there has been some kind of an quote unquote lapse in the security apparatus. What is your comment on these 2 points?
Thank you very much. Whenever some incident takes place, so there's no doubt that it occurs because of some lapse. Although all those attempts which were thwarted, which were foiled, they are not normally counted. I'm sure that for every one successful enemy's attempt, at least 9 to 10 are foiled. But those are not brought in the public domain, so people normally they don't know that what actually is happening. So the first thing is that I think our relations are so deep and strong that such incidents are not likely to affect them a lot. But then the concerns have to be alleviated of a very old friend and a very good friend of ours. But if you look at the pattern which you were talking about, it is very clear that somebody is not happy with CPEC, somebody is not happy with Pak-China relationship, they are behind this. So whereas I agree with the Excellency that we need to deal with these perpetrators, which are actually the front phase of the actual actors which are behind them, that we have to do. But I am of the opinion that we also need to expose the real forces which are behind it. And as I said, the incentives are very clear. Those who have an interest to spoil Pak-China relationship and to make sure that CPEC doesn't move as per the plans, they are the ones behind it. I can name one country very clearly, and that is India. ROM is behind it, whether the front face is BLA or BRA, whosoever it is. So in my opinion, one, we need to have a very close collaboration with China in intelligence sharing. If it is, of course, it is already there, so it must be more deep. It should be more prompt. And then also, we know, the Chinese also know it, that this is CPEC, Chinese-Pakistan economic, China-Pakistan economic corridor, not only Pakistan economic corridor. It has very important Chinese stakes in this whole, corridor, and Gwadar and the whole length of the corridor. So, which means that it is a shared responsibility. Whereas, of course, it is happening in our country, so we have a more responsibility to make sure that these things doesn't happen. But probably, if you are up against some mighty, excuse me, mighty intelligence operators, and I have only named one. There can be others also I don't want to name them, those who don't want, this thing to flourish. So we have to also make sure that we also collaborate more intimately
All
and
right,
more
that
closely
collaboration, that intimate
to sort
collaboration,
these
I
things.
think is important in the background of what has happened very recently. Dr. Khurram Iqbal, international relations expert, also joins us online. Khurram, thank you very much to have joined us. Khurram, when you look at the incidents, when you look at the backdrop, when you look at the highlights of Pakistan-China relationship, when you know and you understand the elements who are behind, who do not want this relationship to prosper, when you also look at the global scenario and the regional scenario, all that is happening, whether it be in Ukraine or otherwise in Afghanistan. Is it a further attempt to destabilize Pakistan?
Well, it certainly is an attempt to destabilize Pakistan and damage Pakistan-China relations. And let us admit that Pakistan-China relations are not as pleasant as they used to be in the past. And we have to do much more than shallow rhetoric to improve the relations between the two countries. Nowhere in the world, China has faced such a massive loss of lives as it is facing in a country that boasts itself as the iron brother of China. And remember, this is not an exceptional or isolated incident, what has happened in Karachi. It has become a trend. Since Dasu, you have seen a number of terrorist attacks targeting Chinese personnel and interests in the country. And certainly, there is, I would not outrightly, reject the external forces in there. But there are a number of problems which are basically rooted in Pakistan domestically. First of all, when we talk about eliminating those sources of problems, we'll have to ensure that we extend the dividends of this mega billion dollars projects to the people of Balochistan. It's been more than 7 years that CPEC was inaugurated. Mostly it has remained in the political rhetoric. On ground, you see very little. And what little has been done on ground, the dividends of that are yet to reach to the people of Balochistan. So I
All right,
think
now
a
therein
major
I'd
part
like
of
to stop you.
problem
I'd like to
is
stop you, Khurram.
internal.
I'd like to tell you about a report that has recently come out that talks about Pakistan only completing 3 CPEC projects in Gwadar, having value of over 3 million, and over 12 schemes are still unfinished, including water supply, electricity provision, according to the CPEC authority. What does that point towards, in your point of view?
See, as far as the first phase of the project is concerned, which was dealing with the roads infrastructure, there is certainly a big development and improvement in that. But the phase 2, which was supposed to bring in the Chinese manufacturing to Pakistan, I mean, that's where we are struggling. And that's not possible until we fix the law and order situation. And the figures that you have mentioned in your question, are we able to actually extend the dividends of those projects to the people of Balochistan? That's the main question. Gwadar, till today, the people of Gwadar, they are deprived of the fresh drinking water there. They are not able to access the very basic health facilities there. So yes, on papers it looks very fine. We have been able to construct those massive roads and some projects in Gwadar, which is called the backbone of CPAC, but the dividends of those projects are yet to reach the people of Balochistan. So when we have a trouble in home, our adversaries are going to fish in our troubled waters. And that's where we fail to understand that we first need to sort out the internal and domestic indigenous sources of problems at home. As far as the adversary is concerned, they are bound to manipulate those problems. Yes, RAW has been involved. RAW has been training the Baloch miscreants, using its soil in Afghanistan in the past. But after the Taliban take over, that argument does not stand the test of scrutiny, because Taliban, they are known to be the good friends of Pakistan, and it is beyond imagination that they would actually harbor the Indian intelligence agencies from there. So therefore, we have to revisit the entire this narrative on the CPAC, on the security of CPAC, and we have to focus more on the first indigenous sources, and then we have to revive the security arrangements that the current government has introduced in 2017. I'm referring to CPAC Security Division, which was the brainchild of Pakistan Muslim League government in 2017. Unfortunately, during last 5 years, we have not devoted sufficient resources to CPAC Security Division, and it had almost become obsolete in recent times. So this is high time that we revive CPAC Security Division with some officer who is capable of taking this challenge head on. So I think that would contribute in a significant manner to improve the security of CPAC. And until we are able to secure CPAC, until we are able to secure Chinese interests and Chinese individual personnel in Pakistan, I don't think we'll be able to regain the same momentum with Beijing as we had 8 years ago.
All right. Coming to Masood Khalid Saab, Ambassador Saab, when Dr. Khurram Iqbal talks about revisiting the CPEC narrative, in your point of view, how can we revisit this narrative? How can we make the necessary changes so as to A, ensure security of the Chinese personnel in Pakistan, B, thwart any future attempts? And I'm sure there have been many, as Naeem Khalid Lodi Saab also pointed out, that we don't hear about because they have been thwarted. How can we, do the necessary measures in order to provide complete security to the Chinese personnel in Pakistan? Your take.
So I think Dr. Iqbal has highlighted an important point, that is of the division reaching the people, at their doorstep. Well, I also saw this report in the Tribune today that, in Gwadar, only 3 projects have been implemented. But we were hearing, that several projects were, nearing implementation and all that. But the progress report, which has come in the newspaper today, gives a different story, which is unfortunate. Of course, there was a slowdown of CPAC in the last couple of years. But at the same time, we should be very clear. CPAC is not going to, CPAC does not mean that all the problems of Gwadar are the responsibility of CPAC. Providing water, providing electricity, fresh water, these are the responsibility of the government of Pakistan or the government of Balochistan. This is not the responsibility of government of China, or this is not, covered under that rubric. We should be clear. For example, if the Gwadar does not have fresh water, that has been, for past many years. And similarly, the problem of electricity. And I can tell you, this power project, which was envisaged to be completed or to be, constructed in Gwadar, 300 megawatt, for about 2 years, I think the NOC for, for the environmental side dimension was not issued. So we kept on seeing these delays and delays. I mean, this is a problem of capacity at our end, not the Chinese. If some projects have not materialized or that they have missed their deadlines, it is the problem of the capacity within our system. Some kind of apathy. He also mentioned the special economic zones. I fully agree. We have not been able to launch even a
Weren't there
single
supposed to be 9
economic
economic
zone.
zones? Masood Khalid Saab, weren't there supposed to be 9 economic zones in the beginning?
Yeah.
No. Yes, there are 9 economic zones. The list is of 9 economic zones. Out of 9 economic zones, we have, I think, prioritized 3. Rashakai in Faisalabad and in Dhabeji in Sindh. But none of them has taken off the ground. I mean, we cannot, and over and above, we have now this problem of security, and it's as other panelists have just said, it's a pattern. And if this pattern, gains momentum, then it is very dangerous. It's going to jeopardize, is going to be a bigger challenge for CPEC. So it will be impossible, it will be very difficult for us to, carry on the seamless implementation of CPEC projects. And I'm not sure, but in the same report I saw today, that perhaps Planning Minister mentioned that the working group on security has not met for many, many months. That never happened when I was there. Say, the working group on security used to meet twice between the two governments.
True.
That's a very important
True.
So I think we need to revisit the entire thing. I mean, we should review our the shortcomings and the problems and the impediments. I'm sure there are some hitches and difficulties on the Chinese side also, but I think we need to sit together and sort this out. Security is very important.
Security is very important, Ambassador Saab, and I think when a country is secure, only then do we have investment. And I'd point this question now to Lieutenant General Naeem Khalid Lodi Saab. Lodi Saab, security is of paramount importance for any country. If I want to go to any country, I want to be sure that I would be secure or my family would be secure. Now, the incident that has happened at the Confucius Institute at the Karachi University and other institutes targeting Chinese, on the superficial level, it seems as if it is being, the Chinese are being targeted or the CPEC is being targeted. Isn't there a larger picture in the pipeline so as to completely not only destabilize Pakistan, but also to prevent any future foreign investment in our country?
True. So first of all, I must reiterate what my two friends are saying, that this is not only a security problem. It is a security problem also. It is an issue of management. It is an issue of politics, both international politics, that is foreign affairs, and internal politics. And then it is also a social issue. So all these things have to be dealt with as a whole, one complete thing. And as far as, two things I would like to comment upon. One, that as Dr. Saab was saying, that Balochis have not benefited from CPEC. So actually, Pakistanis nowhere have actually benefited from CPEC. So saying alone that Balochis have not benefited is probably a partial statement. So nobody has benefited so far in Pakistan, as far as I see. Hardly any advantages which have accrued. As far as security is concerned, you can only make a good security arrangement and a good plan if you are clear, one, about your foreign policy, that how do you want to deal as far as CPEC is concerned. We know very well that which are the forces which would not like this thing to flower. They may keep saying that no, we are not worried and we are not, it doesn't matter and this and that. But we should know in our hearts that in whose interest it is to keep CPEC slow and other things related to it. And then we have to manage that in our, foreign affairs. Then is our internal politics. Somebody comes and makes CPEC an authority. Somebody else comes and he removes that, the first man who was there, or, tries to roll up the authority. This is not the way to deal with such an important, a project which can make or break the future of our country. So it has to be taken seriously. It should be a non-political issue. It should be properly managed. We should know that what is our part of are we ready to, do we have enough engineers, enough technicians? If we do not have them, then what do we do? What is the stopgap arrangement? All these things have to be thought about. And then, of course, the internal politics, that you have to alleviate the apprehensions of Balochis. And I think it is a very simple formula that the benefits of, the CPEC, especially of Gwadar, and all those areas which are in Balochistan, those which first must go to the Balochis, the people of them. For example, it is very disheartening to see that all the housing projects and the commercial projects which are there in Balochistan, the investors are either from Karachi or from Lahore or from somewhere else. So it should not be like that. It should be something on the lines of what Saudi Arabia used to do, in earlier days, that there used to be a kafil, a local kafil, and then somebody from outside can do something of that sort, so that the people think that they're a part of the whole thing. But as I said, it is not only a security issue. And security issue, if we talk of the security issue, it is an issue which is plaguing entire breadth and width of Pakistan. Which
True.
corner of Pakistan do you
That I
think is
agree
very
with you.
secure? So you have to take, everybody's right, whatever my friends are saying, take review of the whole situation, and not only security, your foreign policy, your internal politics, your social aspects, all these things must be taken care of, and a very potent, independent CPEC authority must be created with a lot of power, with one window operation, so that they can deal with all these things, with some very potent person heading all that.
That I agree with you 100% on that line, Lodi Saab. Coming back to Khurram Iqbal. Khurram, whether it be management or the lack of it, whether it be internal politics or the issues concerning that, when it comes to mega projects such as the CPEC, I'd like to quote what also Ambassador Masood Khalid Saab was pointing at, was Planning Minister Ehsan Iqbal, who has directed on Friday officials to ensure that the security review of the CPEC should be held every month, and that all the line ministries should follow the laid down security protocols for the Chinese workers on these projects. And of course, he also stated that the Nakta should function as per its laid down role and objectives. The role of Nakta, let's talk a little bit about Nakta. How important does the role of this organization become in the whole context of what has been happening to the Chinese workers as far as the CPEC is concerned?
Security threats arising mainly from high politics or geostrategic politic developments in the region, I think Nakta will fall short of dealing with those threats, because Nakta for last so many years, it has proven a white elephant. It has not been able to function properly as a counterterrorism authority the way it should have. It is rather functioning more as a not research center, but a think tank composing of people from irrelevant background. So Nakta will struggle, will fall short of. What is more challenging is to manage the high politics revolving around China-Pakistan economic corridor, because these security threats, they're emanating, or they are the byproducts of the high politics to which my fellow panelists were referring to. America made it very clear 6 years ago that on Belt and Road initiatives, countries are either with them or against them. Unfortunately, when there was a change of regime in Pakistan in 2018, it seems to me that there was a deliberate effort from the PTI government to scale down China-Pakistan economic corridor. So PTI, which is now trying to peddle an anti-American narrative, must first be held accountable as to why there was a slowing down of China-Pakistan economic corridor. Why PTI government could not sustain the momentum of this game changer, the multi-billion dollars project in Pakistan. They cite number of excuses for that, but I think it was pretty much related to the high politics. Imran Khan government was trying to allay the American fears, but in its way of allaying the American fears, it ended up losing China in a big way, and that's what Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif was referring in his today's statement, that Chinese are upset the way PTI government has dealt with CPEC in its 3.5 years of the government. So that is the first thing to do as to why the CPEC was scaled down from 2018 onwards. And I think discourse on such a question would solve a lot of mysteries around it. Because within Pakistan, there's a tremendous amount of opposition to Chinese economic expansion in the country. We have a governing elite which is more aligned towards the West, which is more inclined towards the West, and unfortunately, same people, they are peddling an anti-Western narrative. So I think this is quite a complicated thing that we are facing now. Once we are able to resolve this high politics, then we move to the low politics area. That's where I would say the Pakistani political parties, somehow they have done fairly well. whenever there was a political difference on China-Pakistan economic corridor, these political parties, with the exception of PTI, they sat down, they resolved the issues, and the things moved on. But during last 3.5 years, during specifically the PTI time period, Ambassador Masood Khalid is absolutely right. It was not only the working group related to security, rather the planning commission, the working groups on CPEC, they simply had no meetings whatsoever. Planning commission of Pakistan refused to issue any budget on projects related to CPEC. So I think these are the things which must first be questioned in order to ascertain whether there is a national consensus on the issue of CPEC. I don't think that in Pakistan we have a national consensus on the issue of CPEC. Our governing elite is divided. Our governing elite is still pro-Western. You talk about any political party, you talk about any institutions, and they are trying to keep China at a bay. What you see in public narrative, in public rhetoric, it is all rhetoric. Practically, I think we face genuine issues. And when it comes to Pakistan-China relationships, I think we have to go beyond just the mere talk of a friendship which is higher than Himalayas and sweeter than honey.
All right. Well, I'll refer this question now to Ambassador Masood Khalid Saab. Being a diplomat, sir, you understand diplomacy and international relations much better than all of us. Now, in this whole discourse of high politics that Dr. Khurram Iqbal refers to, don't you feel Pakistan can balance its relationship with China with its relationship with the West and the United States of America? I'd refer to what happened a couple of months back when the United States spokesperson said, while answering a question, that the US does not want to force any country, and that includes Pakistan, to side with it or to go with China. All countries are free to do whatever they want. There's no pressure. This was a quote unquote a statement from Ned Price, if I'm not wrong. Do you feel that Pakistan can juggle this balancing act in the days to come as far as its relationship with China and the West is concerned? What's your take, sir, on that?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that, we have an opportunity now in the form of the present coalition government. All the major parties are represented, and headed by Mr. Shehbaz Sharif, who is, who took active interest when he was the Chief Minister of Punjab in implementing CPEC projects. And in fact, he was known for his Punjabi speed in China when I was there. So I think he can give a nudge. He can bring all these political parties, on a table where they can sit and discuss the challenges which are faced by CPEC. And I'm sure that even PTI would like to sort of, contribute to this effort. This is at least my expectation. So because CPEC is a very important project for Pakistan as well as for China. We have equal stakes. China is not going to scrap it. Pakistan is not going to scrap it. And if foreign powers, tell us that you have to abandon your relationship with China, or you have to abandon this, you have to, forget about CPEC. I don't think that we can afford that kind of thing. Now, about the balancing, Pakistan has done quite good job in the past in balancing its relationship. I don't think that Pakistan can be squeezed to a point where forced to accept, as they call the surrender terms. But we have to be internally strong. We have to improve our economy. We have to improve our governance. We have to improve our systems, the capacity to absorb. The projects lapse. Even the CPEC projects are behind schedule. So I think we can maintain. But let me tell you very frankly, this is my opinion. We should not have very high expectations from the United States. If we have high expectations from the United States, and history proves it otherwise, that things have not been, our relationship has not been as comfortable with the United States in the past. It's not likely to be, because in this region, India has been, selected or chosen as the security guarantor, net security provider in the context of Indo-Pacific strategy. So Pakistan will invariably come under pressure from the West, from the United States. But that does not mean that we do hands up. We cannot simply, because our relationship with China, on the other hand, has very mature and sound trajectory. We have actually helped each other at very difficult times. Even now, China is trying to help Pakistan, in terms of its socio-economic development, because China wants Pakistan to be a strong country in this region. And at the same time, I want to make another point. We should be confident in ourselves. Pakistan is the sixth largest country in terms of population. Pakistan has a strong military. Pakistan has incredible defense capability. Pakistan is a nuclear power. And in the South Asian equation, no power, be it the United States, be it, you know, China or any power, can sort of be dismissive about Pakistan. Pakistan's role is important in the South Asian equation. You will remain indispensable and important. But again, the onus lies on us. Onus in terms of ensuring that CPEC is gets the attention which it deserves, because it is in our interest, and that we provide adequate security to our Chinese
Of
friends.
course, let's come to adequate security. And I'm sorry, Masood Saab, I'll have to cut you short. We are a bit short of time. We are coming to the end of the show, but I'd like to point a couple of answers from next two guests as well. Thank you so much, Masood Saab. Coming to you, Naeem Khalid Lodi Saab, I'd like to refer to Zhao Lijian and his statement on the 5th of May this year. And he said that the Chinese side will work with the Pakistani side to conduct a thorough investigation, reveal the truth, bring the perpetrators to justice and give an explanation to the people of both countries. He also said China attaches importance to Pakistan's commitment to strengthen security measures for Chinese personnel, projects and institutions in Pakistan, and stands ready to work together with the Pakistani side to ensure safe and smooth progress in bilateral cooperation and prevent similar incidents from recurring. Is China still confident in its relationship with Pakistan despite whatever has happened? Do you feel that China still wants to move ahead with the CPEC with the same determination as it has been in the past?
Yes.
I mean, the short answer from my side is yes. But I would like to comment on, two things which my partners there brought out. One which has been brought out by Excellency. He has, counted the strengths of Pakistan, which is very good, and I agree with him. But we should also remember the vulnerabilities of Pakistan. Let me just list two. One, non-performing economy. Two, non-performing political system, and forgive me for that. And secondly, whatever Dr. Khurram was saying, I I endorse his point. The vulnerability of the stratas, thinking of stratas in Pakistan. As far as the people of Pakistan are concerned, they're all for CPEC. As far as the middle class is concerned, they're all for CPEC. As far as the professionals are concerned, they're all for CPEC. But once it comes to the political elite, there's a difference of opinion, and that is very sad. So we have to keep these 2 points in the mind. And then I think, as the ambassador was saying, that it is in the interest of both the countries, and not only Pakistan, that CPEC must succeed. But for that, you also talked about whether we can have a balance or not. It is always good to have a balance, and we have been doing very well to keep that balance. But once the question is raised that, are you with us or against us, whether it is CPEC or whatever it is, then the balancing act becomes very, very difficult. So probably we have to now see in this flux, this international political flux, and now also started the international economic flux. We'll have to make up our mind. There's a superpower, existing superpower. Its interests are different. There's a neighborly emerging superpower, which is a very good friend. So probably now we cannot dilly-dally for a very long time. In my opinion, the time has come that we'll have to make a very, and mind you, Chinese have never, and the ambassador will endorse this point, Chinese have never asked us to, antagonize America or something. But then, if that big power is adamant to get an answer to this question, whether you are with us or you are against us in terms of CPEC or whatever, we have to find an answer. I mean, you
All
cannot dilly-dally and remain neutral as far as this thing is concerned. So I think we have to take care of all these things, the non-performing economic system, the non-performing political system, and this bifurcation in the thinking of elite. And to make up our minds.
All right. Finally, Dr. Khurram Iqbal, so many questions that you have raised, that Ambassador Saab has raised, that Naeem Khalid Lodi Saab has raised on different fronts, whether it be political, economic, security or otherwise. How should this current government that is in Pakistan move about in order to ensure at least some kind of stability in all of these aspects?
Well, every new question, Umar, opens the venue for new thinking, and new thinking is always helpful to resolve these problems. When it comes to China-Pakistan economic corridor or Pakistan-China relations, yes, balancing is an aspired objective, but whether balancing is possible in the evolving world order and politics, I'm quite skeptic about that. Because Ambassador Khalid has rightly mentioned, American grand strategy is all about containing a rising China. And in that strategy, India is the linchpin. America won't do or say anything that can antagonize India. That's one reason that there is a rise of ultra-nationalism in India, and Americans are totally ambivalent about that. Minorities are being targeted. There are talks of genocides of Muslims, but American policymakers they are looking the other way around.
All right. That is so true, Dr. Khurram Iqbal. And you know, when we look at the situation, whether it be regional, national, or even internal in Pakistan, there needs to be a lot of introspection and a lot of thinking, a lot of getting together of all the minds concerned. And this is, I think, what my whole panel has been talking about throughout the show, that incidents such as what happened at the Confucius Institute of the Karachi University, or targeting the Chinese that are part of the CPEC, or even any foreign national in Pakistan, needs to be looked at with a very strong eye, a strong mind, and the necessary decisions should be taken, whether it concerns the China-Pakistan Economic Corridor and the non-functioning of the projects, whether it concerns Pakistan's relationship with China and a balancing act with the US and the West, or whether it be Pakistan's own interests, internal and external. After all, it is Pakistan at the end of the day, and it is Pakistan that needs to survive at the end of the day, internally and externally. So let's hope and let's wish that these minds get together and think out a strategy in the next days to come. We all are with you on that. With that, we come to an end of today's perspective. We'll see you inshallah next week, and we bid you a great weekend, and we'll see you tomorrow with new shows and news segments. Allah Hafiz.